Hello there. The UK and the rest of the world are beginning to turn their backs on Israel, and it looks like they will very shortly pull support for that surrounded nation. How often have I heard people say that Gaza is an open-air prison surrounded by its enemy? Well, what about Israel? Tell me about the friendly neighbours it borders with. At least Gaza has a border with Egypt, who are not their enemies. But for some inexplicable reason they won't open their border at the Rafah crossing to let Gazan refugees through into the Sinai. Can't for the life of me think why not. Maybe they're worried about terrorist overspill or something like that. And at the same time as saying the Gaza Strip is an open prison, the same people will point at images of Gaza before the Israelis were forced to intervene and say how pretty and wonderful it was. Not much of an open prison then. And the Gazan population had been growing steadily. Not much of a genocide either then. But the world is now turning on Israel, and that is very biblical by all accounts. Now, to lighten the mood for the moment, why not join me in London tomorrow evening at the Free Speech Union Christmas comedy special at the Backyard Comedy Club near Bethnal Green Tube Station at 7 p.m. You don't have to be a member either. It will be hosted by Dominic Frisby of the internet sensation 17 Million F***off's Brexit song. And there's a brilliant lineup of entertainment too. And if you're nifty, you might still be able to snap up a ticket, link in the descriptions box below. And to be clear, I am a member of the FSU, but I do not get anything for this. I paid for my own ticket because I want to see the show. Hope to see you there. Now, when Hamas hit Israel on the 7th of October, they were hoping for a robust response from the IDF, and they prepared for the people of Gaza to be the ones to take the full brunt of it. They knew exactly what was to come. In fact, they were banking on it. Now, can anyone out there tell me the first priority for any government? Yes, to protect its citizens. Israel is doing just that. But Hamas is doing the exact opposite. Hamas made no preparation to protect anything but itself from the whirlwind it had sown. No bunkers for the citizenry. No bunkers for the children. Just bunkers for the terrorists. A cynical dereliction of duty. A cynical ploy to kill their own people to garner support from a naive international community. Naive, or worse. A ploy that is sadly now working on our politicians. Far easier to cave in than to try and explain complex operational realities. And it's working because Hamas wants the slaughter to continue for its own ends. That of getting the international community to turn on and destroy Israel on its behalf. Just look at how the statements from the likes of the UK and the US on the right of Israel to defend itself have now morphed through "you can only defend yourself up to a point" into "there must be a ceasefire." With the new rhetoric of appeasement to the Hamas supporters coming from zombie Joe Biden, David Cameron, Ben Wallace and Rishi Sunak telling us more than we need to know about which direction the political traffic is now travelling. Calling for a ceasefire that, while allowing aid and medical help to get through to civilians, it will also allow Hamas to regroup and rearm. Any ceasefire would only last as long as Hamas wanted it to last. And any deaths resulting from the next killing spree Hamas goes on, a killing spree that might be here in Europe or even in the UK, given the intelligence warnings we've been getting, those deaths will be on the heads of those who would not let Israel finish the job of eliminating Hamas. And that's the real crying shame about all of this. Saving lives today would mean sacrificing possibly many more tomorrow. Oh, and the ships being sent to the Red Sea are more about keeping the shortest trade route for the West open than it is about protecting Israel. Now, I can understand how upset people are about those images coming out of Gaza, but this would not, repeat, not be happening had Hamas not so brutally broken that earlier ceasefire on October the 7th. And it would not be anywhere near as bad had Egypt opened the Rafah crossing immediately and helped the UN set up a refugee camp on the Sinai Peninsula, at least for the women and children. But the Egyptians will have none of it, and you can't blame Israel for that. And it could be over very quickly if Hamas returned the hostages. Don't forget the hostages. But this is now all forgotten, just as Israel itself knew that it would. Right at the start, before they even set foot in the Gaza Strip, protests against them protecting themselves had already started. The Israelis knew that they only had a few short weeks or months to get done what was needed to get done before the West went all weak and wobbly. They knew it was only a matter of time before those that caused all of this would be rewarded, while the Israelis they attacked would be vilified. Now, there will be people out there screaming that there is never any excuse to kill children. Ever, ever, ever. Those people need to round on Hamas and tell them to protect the children of Gaza. But they don't. And nothing will ever convince me that Hamas is doing anything other than purposefully putting its own children in extreme danger. Now, I'm going to show you some very interesting stuff from Operation Protective Edge back in 2014, where Israeli forces targeted Hamas missile launchers. This shows the IDF aborting fire missions for various reasons. And as I said, these are from 2014, not the current operation.
יש גם תנועה על הציר פה, איפה שאני מזיז עכשיו, וגם איפה ששני העיגולים יש אנשים נייחים.
פה כל האזור הזה מלא, מלא.
הרבה מאוד ילדים.
כרגע יש איזה 15 איש בטווח של 10-15 מטר מהמבנה התורה.
סליחה, רואה, מקבלת עוברים למטרה אחרת.
אתה רואה את התמונה שלי? כמה באים בצד השמאלי התחתון יש שם ילדים על הגל, אפשר אותם משחקים? תעשו למטרה. בסדר? יש שם ילדים על הגל משחקים, וגם המסדרון הזה של תנועה של אנשים כוסים משחקים. יש שם עכשיו גם בן אדם. אני מכיר שהמטרה לא נקייה.
יש פה אנשים עכשיו.
מטרה לא נקייה, לא נקייה. 3 אנשים עומדים בערך 5 מטר מה... יכול להיות ש2 מה-3 הם נשים.
קיבלתי כנראה חודמים, חדל.
ויש פה אנשים, פה אנשים. איפה אנשים?
תראה, יש פה הסתובבות של די הרבה, ייתכן ילדים מסתובבים באזור של המבנה שם כרגע מסומן.
ככל הנראה אנחנו לא נתוף את המטרה, נגמר נתייחס למטרה הבאה ונצדיק.
Now, Operation Protective Edge was very much like the current op, called Swords of Iron. And thousands died back then in 2014 too. It could be argued that the IDF should have been allowed to complete the job back then, sparing lives today. But this time Israel is playing for keeps, not just to kick the can down the road a few years like it did last time. And to reflect that, the Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu is considering changing the name of the event. He says that Swords of Iron is the name of an operation, not the name of a war. So he wants the name to reflect that, with the Jerusalem Post reporting, according to a report by Michael Shemesh on Can 11, that's a state-owned Israeli TV channel, the Prime Minister is considering names such as the Gaza War, the Simchat Torah War and the Genesis War. And it goes on to say that sources close to the Israeli PM confirmed that he is interested in a name that will catch on publicly and internationally, and that the war will be remembered as a significant war, not just as an operation. With Israel facing an enemy that openly states its aim is to completely destroy Israel and has acted accordingly on many occasions, doesn't leave the Israelis much choice, does it?